I'd like to welcome everyone and call this June 3rd, 5:15 meeting of the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee to order. Does anyone have any potential conflicts of interest? Seeing none, any citizens' comments? Seeing no citizens' comments, move to the consent agenda. Minutes of the May 20th, 2025 meeting, bills and payroll, monthly position control report, and report of personnel action. Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All those in, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Request to recommend council approval of payroll resolution number 2025-17, adopting updated wage scale for all non-represented staff effective July 1st, 2025, presented by Sarah, our Human Resources Director.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight, just wanted to talk a little bit about the wage scale that typically occurs on July 1st every year. Back in, 2024, we completed the compensation study with McGrath, and at that time did adopt a new pay scale. Payroll resolution number 2025-17 adjusts this by 2.5% effective on July 1st, 2025. And that was based on the approval that was given by Common Council during the 2025 budget discussions that occurred on November 26, 2024. So how this works is the adjustment is applied to the midpoint of each pay grade, and then it's calculated upon step percentages. Just one note that was put in the memo, the library board will be discussing this issue at its June 19th meeting, and the board is expected to extend the same increases to its staff, subject to approval by this committee and council. So that'll be done with a presentation by the library director, Jill Porter. So at this time, staff does recommend that the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee recommend council approval of payroll resolution number 2025-17, which provides a 2.5% compensation plan increase effective July 1st, 2025, and the subsequent salary adjustments for all eligible non-represented employees.
Do you have a recommendation or a motion for recommendation of council approval?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Any discussion? Then vote. Aye.
Aye.
7. Request to recommend. Oh,
Mrs. Spiros, did you vote? Aye.
number 7, request to recommend council approval of library payroll resolution increasing wage scale for library staff by 2.5% effective July 1st, 2025, presented by Jill Porter, our library director.
Hi, thank you. I just want to make one little clarification. We're actually on the opposite 6-month schedule from the city. So we do our scale increase at the beginning of the year and our cost of living increase in July. So that's what we're approving here, rather than the other way around. I expect, as Sarah said, I expect that we will getting the library board's approval, go forward with this at their meeting next Thursday. And then if for any reason they chose to rescind that, which I think is highly unlikely, we would just pull it from and have finance make the correction. But with your approval, I'd like to go ahead with the cost of living increase of 2.5%.
Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, vote, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 8, request to recommend council approval of revised policy 4.200 donations, presented by Jennifer Zelensky, our finance director.
Good evening. Actually, this is a brand new policy for the city. So it's not a revision. You don't have a red line in there. The purpose of this policy is to establish some clearer guidelines and procedures for evaluating and accepting proposed donations to the city of Marshfield. Throughout the city's history, donations have played a vital role in enhancing public services and improving our community. This policy will ensure that all proposed gifts are reviewed with thoughtful consideration of the donor's intent, community benefit, and the short and long-term responsibilities the city may incur. It strives to recognize the value of community generosity while also ensuring that all donations, whether monetary, physical items, or improvements, align with our city's priorities, legal requirements, and long-term sustainability. Some key points in the policy will be that a formal donation form will be required for any gift over $100, and this helps outline the intent, cost, location, and maintenance costs of the proposed donation. This will need to be filed with the finance director after submission so that we can properly account for and track the receipt of the donation as well as related expenditures. The city administrator will be responsible for overseeing the review of the donations and may refer any donation to any board, committee, or commission, or the council, depending on the size and type of the donation. All donations will become property of the city upon acceptance, and the city retains the full discretion to decline any donation for any reason it sees fit. Any cost for installation, upkeep, and future maintenance should also be considered upfront, and private construction projects must follow the rules for the statutes for those types of projects. Recognition is certainly allowed, but anonymity isn't guaranteed because we are a public entity and due to the public open records laws of Wisconsin. The city can also, by this policy, remove any donation if they become unsafe, deteriorated, or unmanageable. Ultimately, the policy balances generosity of our donors with the long-term interests and responsibility of the city and its residents. Some general guidelines will be that the donations must comply with all city policies and laws. There should be no personal benefit related or resulting from any donation. The city may require property appraisals before accepting gifts, so we have an idea of what we're actually getting. Also, city officials or employees would not be able to solicit donations without council-approved fundraising plans. The policy also outlines who can accept certain donations. If it's unrestricted monetary donations, those can be approved by the city administrator. But once a donor begins to place any restrictions on donations, those would be reviewed and accepted by council through committees. Any large gifts over $5,000 should also be reviewed by council. As a reminder, any private construction has to follow any applicable laws, and then will become city property. It also outlines who would be what would be considered ineligible donations. Anything that would be politically affiliated would be disallowed. Anything from suspected criminal groups or litigation opponents or those who may owe money to the city for permits or any other reason. An important thing to note in the policy that we would not begin spending on any projects until the donations are accepted and received by the city. If there is a large fundraising goal, you might think of an example of the pool. We would be likely to collaborate with the Community Foundation again on such a project. And these agreements have to be formally approved by the Common Council. The intent is to be transparent so that any donor can be told exactly how their monies were spent. Any unplanned donations that we might receive during the year, if spending is to be initiated in that same year, we'll have to do a budget resolution for those because they would not have been anticipated in the budget. And as far as any leftover funds from a project, those surplus funds can then be repurposed to other city projects unless there's some sort of restriction placed on it by the donor. The policy also goes through a long list of considerations that we can make when deciding whether or not to accept a donation. It also talks about memorials and naming rights. Currently, that naming requests are handled through the Parks and Rec Committee, and that would not change. Talks a little bit about donor recognition objects and approval for, or how those would also be approved so that they aren't distracting or taking away from the improvement itself. So with that, there's also a sample donation form within the policy and a sample thank you note. We want to make sure that we are acknowledging all donations as they come in. So with that, I would recommend this committee approve the donations policy 4.2 and recommend Common Council approval.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Okay. Moving on. Number 9, request to recommend council approval to close fundraising accounts for Wildwood Zoo and Vandahay Waters currently held at the Marshfield Area Community Foundation and establish a maintenance fund for Wildwood Zoo, presented by Justin Casperson, Parks and Recreation Director.
Good evening, and this is a perfect transition from the previous agenda item, as we did have 2 funds at the foundation. We still do have 2 funds. The purpose of my request tonight is seek approval to close 2 fund agreements currently held at the Marshfield Area Community Foundation, and then transfer those remaining balances to the city of Marshfield. These funds were established to receive donor contributions for specific development projects. Number 1 is the Vandahay Waters, what at the time it was called the Marshfield Outdoor Aquatic Fund, and the Wildwood Zoo J.P. Adler Bear Exhibit and Hamas Welcome Center and Cougar Exhibit. At that time, it was called the Wildwood Zoo Capital Improvement Fund. The Marshfield Outdoor Aquatic Fund was established in 2019, and the Wildwood Zoo Capital Improvement Fund was established in 2012. Both served as mechanisms for the foundation to manage donations and logistics for these significant community projects. Both projects have been successfully completed, but they are leaving unspent balances in their respective funds. Staff recommends moving the Marshfield Outdoor Aquatic Fund, a transfer of $47,985.35 to the City of Marshfield's 420 Fund to reimburse expenses related to the Vandahay Waters Pool project. The Wildwood Zoo Capital Improvement Fund, we would transfer the remaining $41,107.49 to establish a new Wildwood Zoo designated fund within the City of Marshfield. This designated fund, managed by the city's finance department and its investment advisors, would provide controlled disbursements for the zoo's long-term operational needs. This also creates a nice platform for future donor engagement, enhancing the zoo's financial stability and sustainability. The recommendation is listed below. Essentially, I thought it'd be appropriate to do these separate and make the actions each separate. So 1 is to close the Wildwood Zoo Capital Fund at the Marshfield Area Community Foundation and transfer the $41,107.49 to the City of Marshfield Wildwood Zoo's designated fund. And to close, there's an error on that second one, to close the Marshfield Outdoor Aquatic Fund, not the Wildwood Zoo Capital Improvement Fund, at the Community Foundation and transfer the $47,985.35 to the 420 Fund at the City of Marshfield.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All
Can I
those-
just clarify, are we approving the zoo designated fund first? Which, there were 2 separate items presented.
Sure, the zoo.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Looking for a motion for the second half.
I'll move to approve moving the aquatic fund.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Item 10, request to recommend council approval to set installment payment plan interest rate for 2025 special assessments, presented by Jennifer Selensky, Finance Director.
Okay, this is an annual request as we begin our construction projects. For those parts of the project that will be specially assessed to residents, we are allowed to charge an interest rate that approximates the borrowing that would be utilized for the entire project, plus a 2% add-on for our internal administrative costs. I'm not recommending a change in the interest rate from 6%, which was last year's rate, to this year. And staff would recommend that rate of 6% for the 2025 special assessments for those using an installment plan for repayment.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Second.
Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Thank you.
Request to recommend council approval of revised policy number 3170, moving expense reimbursement, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director.
Good evening again. So the next two policies that we'll talk about really stem from the initial conversation that we had regarding the recruitment process, where I kind of talked a little bit about, where we're at, where we see issues, things like that. So part of the reason why I'm bringing these two specific ones up is to kind of really clarify where we're at with each of these, so that there's no question that we know ahead of time what we need to do in these situations. It will kind of eliminate some timing issues that we've seen and kind of keep things rolling through the process. So the first one is really regarding moving expense reimbursement. This policy was created back in 1998, and it was revised back in 2011, but it really offers really kind of minimal direction. And so we kind of wanted to, update this, streamline it, really get it closer to what we want our staffing model to be. So some of the key changes would include employee eligibility for reimbursement, clarification on the process itself, and then clarification on what's covered under the reimbursement. So this is definitely not something that we would use like every time we have, an open position. It really would be meant as a recruitment tool when we feel like we need it for, a hard to fill position, or potentially if we find a candidate where this would just be applicable and we would want to have it as part of the process. So staff is recommending the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee recommend Common Council approval of updated policy 3.170 for moving expense reimbursement. And I can answer any questions.
Motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Request to recommend council approval of revised policy number 3145, recruitment policy, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources.
Thank you. So this one is the overall recruitment policy. We've made some changes previously, but really this was a huge overhaul of the whole, recruitment policy, which is why you did not see necessarily like a red line version. I provided like the old version and then kind of the new version. What this will do is really differentiate the recruitment process based on position levels from the city administrator to entry-level roles. It clarifies that departments, governed by independent boards and commissions like the Library Board, PFC, they will not be directly covered by this policy, but their HR is there to help and assist as needed. But key enhancements would include streamlined initiation by the department and division heads to fill a vacancy that is for budgeted positions. There's also going to be an intake meeting, and this really should, again, streamline it. Do we need any updates to the job description, things like that? So that intake meeting will be really critical. And then anything that has to do with counter offers, because That's much more common now. So we wanted to make sure that we had a process just so that we could, cover that and not have to figure out like, what do we do with these things? So they're definitely designed to kind of clarify, make things more efficient, and then, maintain the necessary oversight, by this group and Common Council, just so that we're all clear on kind of what the process is. So staff does recommend Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee recommend Common Council approval of updated recruitment policy 3.145.
Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor vote say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Number 13, adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statutes, chapter 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specific public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, roll call vote.
Varsho,
Yes.
O'Reilly,
Yes.
Giles,
Here.
Moran,
Yes.
Spiros.
Motion passes. We are in closed session. We reconvene in open session. There'll be no action on matters discussed in closed session. Any suggested items for future agendas? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.